He cried out and fell down before him.
Whoa, you see how they trembled at him? When he saw Jesus, he fell down at his feet, cried out and fell down at his feet.
Yes, sir.
You believe in God, the devils do too, and they tremble. See what they did when they saw Jesus? Fell down at his feet. Go ahead.
And with a loud voice said,
Uh-huh.
What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God Most High?
Uh-huh.
Beseech thee, torment me not.
He said, I beseech thee, torment me not. So what does it mean, torment me not? He knows his demise is coming. They know this. Go ahead and read. Man don't understand this though. That at some point, your demise is coming if you don't do what thus say the Lord. Go ahead and read.
29.
Uh-huh.
For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For oftentimes it had caught him, and he was kept bound with chains and in fetters. And he brake the bands and was driven of the devils into the wilderness.
Go ahead.
And Jesus asked him, saying, What is thy name? And he said, Legion, because because many devils were entered into me, into him. Excuse me. And they besought him that he would not command them to go out into the deep.
Go ahead.
And there was and heard of many swines feeding on the mountains. And they besought him that he would suffer them to enter into them. And he suffered them. Then went the devils out of the man.
Okay, it said, and then he suffered them. So even the Lord had mercy on these devils, didn't he?
Come on.
Look how merciful he is. They said, no, some of us to go on the swine. And he suffered them to go on the swine, didn't he?
Yes,
go ahead and read. Verse 33.
33. Then went the devils out of the man and entered into the swine.
Go ahead.
And the herd ran violently down a steep place into the lake and were choked.
Now let's look at this again, because I want you to look at this on a deeper level. I want you to look at this on a deeper level. Ain't that something? The devils, they fear God.
Come on, brother. Yes, sir.
And tremble. Look how they fell down at Jesus' feet and bow down to him. Let's look at this again. Let's go to Matthew, the 8th chapter. Matthew 8. Lord got this book lined up, don't he? Matthew 8. And we're going to pick it up at verse 28. Matthew 8 and 28. Matthew 8 and 28. Go ahead.
And when he was coming to the other side into the country of the Gergesens, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs exceeding fierce.
Go ahead.
So that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time?
Ooh, you see that? He said, are you coming here to torment us before our time? See, they know they got a time coming. And I'm going to show you a little later about this time. They know they got a time coming. A time of torment. And man got a time of torment coming too if he don't fear the Lord and walk in God's commandments.
Make it plain, brother. Yes, sir.
See, the devils, they understand it. Man don't understand this. Let's go now. Let's go to Daniel, the 3rd chapter. Let's go to Daniel 3. Daniel, the 3rd chapter. Because here's a man that he understood about the Lord, but he didn't fear him though. He didn't fear him. He understood who the Lord was, but he just didn't fear the Lord. Let me show you. Daniel 3 and 24. Daniel 3 and 24. Everybody got it? Go ahead and read. I'm going to stop saying that. Daniel 3 and 24. Go ahead and read.
Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astounded and rose up in haste.
Now this is when the Lord, when Nebuchadnezzar tried to get them to worship Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to worship his God. He said, if you don't worship my God, I'm going to cast you in the fiery, right?
That's
the
right.
fiery furnace. So he put them in the fire. And then, first of all, he heated up the furnace like 7 times hotter. the men that stood by the furnace that threw them in, they burned up. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they go in there, they got their coats on and everything, they going up in the fire, right? Now the king, he turned step to come off his throne and looked in the fire. What happened? Go ahead and start reading now.
24. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astounded and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire?
Go ahead. He said, did we cast 3 men in the midst of the fire? Go ahead and read.
They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose.
He said, I see 4 men loose. Go ahead and read.
Walking in the midst of the fire. And they have no hurt.
Wait a minute. They walking in the midst of the fire.
Come on.
Walking in it. You know, this is the God that we dealing with right here. He can bring you out the fire and you don't have no hurt, smoke, nothing on you. But these men, they walking around and he said, he put 3 in there, but now I see 4. Go ahead and read.
And they have no hurt. In the form of the 4th is like the Son of God.
And the form of the 4th is like who?
The Son of God.
The Son of God. Go ahead. They didn't say it was the Son of God. They said it like the Son of God, didn't they? Yeah, because people try to say that this is Jesus right here, or the Lord walking around. No, this is the Lord. Jesus, the one who was telling them about this, to write this. So if you keep reading this, you'll see that the king said the Lord has sent his angel and loosed these men out the fire. Go ahead and read though. Verse 26. Go ahead.
26. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God.
Ooh, now you know who they was, then, don't it? He said, ye servants of the Most High God. Go ahead.
Come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose the body of the fire had no power, nor was an hair on their head singed.
Go ahead.
Neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them.
You see that? This God right here, he know how to deliver, don't he?
Man, brother.
Go ahead and read.
28. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Wait a minute. Now he know who he talking. Now he know who we dealing with. Not on it. He said, Blessed be the Lord of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He understand about who this is he dealing with, not only.
Yes, sir.
But he didn't fear him, though. Go ahead and read.
Who have sent his angels and delivered his servants.
You see that?
Trusted in him.
Who have sent his angel and delivered him that trusted in him.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
And have changed the king's word. And yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God.
Go ahead.
Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces.
See, if you even speak against this God, we're going to cut you in pieces. Now, he understands who he dealing with, don't he? Even if you speak against him, we're going to cut you in pieces. But he didn't fear him, though. I'm going to show you. Not until later. Go ahead and read. God had to put some fear in his heart first. Go ahead, but this would have been enough to put fear in your heart right here. If I see something like this, these guys walking around in the fire.
Come on, brother.
And then they coming out there, ain't no hurt on them, no smoke even on their coats, no smell on nothing. Hey man, this the God I want to serve.
Amen.
And this the God I do serve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill. Because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort.
No other God can deliver after this sort. Go ahead and read that verse 30.
30. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.
In the province of Babylon. So we're dealing with King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of what? Babylon.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me show you something here. This king, he didn't fear God. He understood who God was, but he didn't fear him. Let's go now. Let's go over to Daniel, the 4th chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Daniel 4 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and language that dwell in all the earth. Peace be multiplied unto you.
See, he was a world ruler. In fact, he was the first world ruler. Go ahead and read.
Verse 2. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God have wrought toward me.
Now, we gonna read all this. Let's skip down to verse 24 and get to what we're looking for. Down to verse 24. Because, you know, he had this dream, right? So now, Daniel gonna tell him about this dream. Go ahead and read now.
24. This is the interpretation, O king. This is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thou dwelling shall be with the beast of the field.
Wait a minute. And they shall drive thee, because you know Daniel was telling him interpretation. We didn't read all that, but he had this dream, and so Daniel told him interpretation of his dream. He said that this is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which come upon my lord the king. That they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. He talking about the king. Your dwelling, king, is going to be with the beasts of the field. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. And they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen. And they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven. And 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to the whomsoever he will.
You see that? He said you gonna eat grass like the ox, man, and 7 times gonna pass by you, and then you gonna know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. See, he didn't fear God, so the Lord had to come back and tell him this, Daniel. This is what his dream was. Go ahead and read.
26. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that, thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule.
Go ahead.
Wherefore, king.
He had to put some fear in him and show him what time it is for him to fear the Lord. Because he knew who he was dealing with, but he didn't fear him, though. Go ahead and read.
Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be accepted unto thee, and break off thy sins, by righteousness.
Hold it now. He telling the king, hey, he said, let this be, in other words, let this be a lesson to you, and let my words be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness. So stop sinning, king, and start doing some righteousness, walking in righteousness. Now Daniel telling the king this. Go ahead and read.
Break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by the showing mercy to the poor. If it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility.
He tell him this is what you need to do, man. You understand? If you don't want to eat grass like the ox for 7 years. Go ahead and read.
All this came upon the king of Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon.
Now look what he's doing now. He getting ready to start boasting now. Go ahead and read.
The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom?
He said, is not this great Babylon I have built? I built this great Babylon. Go ahead and read.
That I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power.
Of the might of my power. But who maketh rich and maketh poor? God do, right?
Amen.
He bring him up and he take you down to the dust too, won't he?
That's right, brother.
Go ahead and read.
By the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty. While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven. Saying.
He said, while he was doing all this boasting, here come a voice from heaven. And saying what?
Saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken. The kingdom is departed from thee.
The kingdom is departed from thee. Go ahead.
And they shall drive thee from men. And thy dwelling shall be with the beast of the field.
Go ahead.
They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men.
Now this is what Daniel told him, didn't he? But he didn't heed to that warning, did he? Now he come a voice from heaven. Oh, you didn't believe that? Now listen to this. This was getting ready to happen to you. Go ahead and read.
The Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to the whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon
The
Nebuchadnezzar.
same hour was this thing fulfilled. He dropped down to his knees and started eating grass like an ox. Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
Now this is God to be feared, ain't it?
Indeed.
He took a king and made him drop down and ain't saying nothing. He probably, and hit the ground and started eating grass like an ox. No help me, no nothing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
What verse you at?
The middle of 33.
Go ahead.
And he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen.
Uh-huh.
And his body was wet with the dew of heaven,
Uh-huh.
till his hairs was grown like eagles.
Now his
feathers.
hairs was grown like what?
Eagle's
feathers. Go ahead.
And his nails like bird claws.
And his nails like bird claw. He couldn't even maintain himself. You know how we maintenance ourselves every day? He couldn't even maintain himself. Like the beast. Eating grass. Go ahead and read.
34.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes unto heaven,
Uh-huh.
and my understanding returned unto me.
Go ahead. He said, man, now this is after 7 years now. He looked up, his understanding returned to him. He looked up to heaven. Go ahead and read.
And I blessed the Most High,
Ooh,
and I praised the honor of him.
Now he feel not on it.
Yes, sir.
Lord had to put some fear in his heart. Oh, you ain't gonna do what I tell? Okay. You gonna eat grass for 7 years like an ox. They say his hair grew like feathers, right? And his nails grew like claws. Man, ain't that something? You don't play with this guy right here, boy.
No, sir.
He'll get you.
Teach, brother.
And then let him live for 7 years by eating grass. Man, this God here is something. He is to be feared above all gods. He said, and at the end of the days, I Nebuchadnezzar lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High. Go ahead.
And I praised and honored him
Whoa.
that liveth forever,
He said, I praised and honored him that live forever. Go ahead.
whose dominion is an everlasting dominion,
Uh-huh.
and his kingdom is from generation to generation.
Now he know who we did for sure who he did with. He praising him now, ain't he?
Amen.
Why? Because God had put some fear in his heart. In order for him to worship him, didn't he? But let me just show you something right here. Because God did something like this recently. Wasn't nobody really paying attention to it. But let me just read something here to you. Now, you remember back in, I guess it was around 2003 or 4 or something like that, Saddam Hussein. Now, first, before we go there though, let me just show you something here. We're going to go to the World Book Encyclopedia. We're going to the World Book Encyclopedia. Now, he said Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, didn't he? Let me show you what this Babylon is right now. Go ahead. Read this. This and this.
Yes, yes, sir. The World Book Encyclopedia, Volume 10, says Iraq.
Iraq. Go ahead.
So Iraq in the Arab country at the head of the Persian Gulf in southwestern Asia. Iraq is larger than California, but has about 3/5 as many people. Baghdad is Iraq's capital and largest city.
Uh-huh.
Some of the world's earliest civilizations developed in what is now Iraq.
Hold it. Some of the world's earliest civilizations were in Iraq. Go ahead and read.
Developed in what is now Iraq.
Uh-huh.
The ancient Greeks called this region Mesopotamia,
Mesopotamia. Go ahead. Where else?
meaning between the rivers.
Uh-huh.
Ruins of such ancient cities as Babylon.
Oh, what ruins of such ancient cities as Babylon? So ancient city Babylon is now present day Iraq.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is one of the cities.
That's right, brother.
Go ahead.
As Babylon and Nineveh lie along the Tigris and in Euphrates.
Now, so we know now that this modern day Iraq, used to be ancient Babylon and what they call Mesopotamia, right? Now, look at this. Well, nobody paying attention to this. But look at what the Lord did in this same country. To a king in this country, in the same country. Now, read this right here. Now, put that picture up there, yeah.
It says Saddam was discovered inside a small spider hole.
Now, wait a minute. Now, you know how he was, Saddam Hussein, you know, he saw him sometime, he had a shotgun, he doing like this, shooting the shotgun off and bragging and talking about this going to be a war of wars and a mother war and all this stuff and doing all this bragging, wasn't he? But they said, where they found him at? Now, look at when they found him.
In the spider hole.
That picture that you're looking at, this is when they found Saddam Hussein. Just like just like Nebuchadnezzar's hair had grown long. Look how long his hair had grown. Say his nails was like claws, right? Look at his nails. They grow like claws. And then he had Nebuchadnezzar on the ground for 7 years, didn't he? Where did they find Saddam Hussein at? Read it.
It says inside a small spider hole.
He said Saddam was discovered inside a small spider hole. Look at what the Lord did to him. He went from being the king of this country, same country, Babylon, right?
Yes,
all the way down into a hole. Just like the Lord took Nebuchadnezzar with all his palaces and all his wealth and everything, what? Made him eat grass like an ox for 7 years. So this is the same thing he did to the president of Babylon, the same thing he did to the president or king of Iraq. Made him live in a spider hole. Hair grown long, his nails grow long. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. It says Saddam Hussein discovered inside a small spider hole,
Okay.
covered by a rug inside this farm.
Now turn that page. Now look here. Look at what this woman said. Go ahead. I mean, I was going to do more about this, but I said, no, we're going to keep on moving on. Go ahead.
Said, what could be better? Said Miss Ahmad. Saddam Hussein has lost his power.
He has lost his power. Just like Nebuchadnezzar had lost his power, didn't he? In the same country. Go ahead and read.
His children.
We talk about thousands of years later, the Lord turned around in our generation and do the same thing. Go ahead and read.
Has lost his power, his children, his wife, his palaces. Now he's in a cage.
See, he wasn't lucky as Nebuchadnezzar, or blessed as Nebuchadnezzar, I should say.
Yes,
the
sir.
Lord let him up off the ground, didn't he?
Come on.
But this right here, this guy right here, he let him up off the ground. He got up off the ground, but then he put him in a cage, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Then what happened to him? Lifted his feet off the ground with a rope. Go ahead and read though.
Says now he's in a cage in one northern town. Kurds stopped everything to watch Saddam San Juan's Mercury News.
Now, so you see how the Lord does it. You know, he ain't nothing new under the sun, is it? Just like he did the king Nebuchadnezzar, he did Saddam Hussein the same way, except he killed Saddam Hussein. So, you know, that's the same God back during that time, the same God we're dealing with now. So this God is to be feared, isn't he?
Yes, sir.
I mean, he let us see something in our generation. In our generation. Because I remember when they hung Saddam Hussein. And I remember how he was being defiant. And I remember how he killed all those people. Now, whatever he did, that's between him and the Lord and everything. I'm not saying this and I'm just saying, look at what happened to him. The same thing that happened to Nebuchadnezzar in the same country. Now, let's go now. Let's go to Proverbs, the first chapter. Proverbs, the first chapter. That's something to take notice of, ain't it? Proverbs, the first chapter, and we're going to pick it up in verse 20. Proverbs 1 and 20. Proverbs 1 and 20. Go ahead and read it.
Wisdom crieth without. She uttered.
He said, wisdom is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Didn't we? We read that early, didn't we? But look at what he's saying right here. He said, wisdom crieth out, and it's crying out to you now, just like John the Baptist said. He was like one crying in the wilderness. But it's crying, wisdom is crying out to you now. Go ahead and read.
Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets.
Go ahead.
She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in openings of the gates.
Go ahead.
In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity?
He said, how long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? It's simple-minded to say that God's Sabbath no longer is enforced, or God's Sabbath no longer exists. Even if you don't worship the Sabbath, you still should be saying it don't no longer exist. It's simple-minded to say that you don't have to keep God's commandments when this is what he's going to judge you by. That's simple-minded. It's all through the book too.
Yes, sir.
Even the last book in the Bible, almost the last chapter in the Bible, well, the last chapter, but almost the last verse in the Bible, still tell you what? Keep the commandments.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
God came and gave you the commandments when he was on the mountain. Then he came down in person, gave you the commandments. Then he went back to heaven and did what? Gave you the commandments. So it is simple-minded to say that you don't have to keep the commandments. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? Go ahead.
And the scorners delight in their scorning. And fools hate knowledge.
Ooh, fools hate knowledge. Because this God right here is a God of knowledge, ain't he?
Indeed. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Turn you at my reproof.
This is what the Lord wants us to do. Say, turn at my reproof. Go ahead.
Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you.
Go ahead.
Because I have called, and ye refuse. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded.
Go ahead.
But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof.
Go ahead.
I also will laugh at your calamity.
Now you see what is happening? He said, I'm going to laugh at your calamity. I tried to talk to you, but you wouldn't listen. He said, okay, when your calamities come, I'm going to laugh at you. Because you know that's when people start calling on God when they get in trouble, right? Ain't believe on the day in their life, but then when they get in trouble, now you want to call on God. He said, I'm going to laugh at your calamities. Not just I'm going to turn a blind ear to it, I'm going to laugh at it. Go ahead.
I will mock when your fear cometh.
He said, I'm going to mock you when your fear. You ain't going to fear me. Maybe you'll fear this danger that's coming towards you. He said, but I'm going to mock you when your fear come on you. Ain't that something? God sitting up in heaven mocking you when your calamity comes on you. Because you wasn't here. Go ahead and read.
27.
When
your fear cometh as desolation, and your distressing cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you,
go ahead.
Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer.
Ooh, this God right here, you better worship this God right here,
Preach, brother.
We better worship this God. He said, when your destruction come upon you and you call upon me, I'm not going to even answer. Go ahead and read.
They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me.
Go ahead.
For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would not.
Wait a minute now. For that they hated knowledge and did not do what? Choose the fear of the Lord. You know, men think, God is all love. And, well, if he is all love, then why is he going to throw people in the lake of fire then? Somebody need to be asking that question. He said they chose not the fear of the Lord. Go ahead and read.
Verse 30. They would not of my counsel.
They didn't hear none of my counsel. Just like men now. They don't hear none of his counsel. You rather do what does say a man then thus say the Lord. Because we know a man gave you Sunday, don't we?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, even if you want to worship God on that day, that's cool. But the Lord told you to keep it Sabbath, though, didn't he?
Yes,
How you going to ignore what thus say the Lord and do what thus say a man?
That's right, brother. It's etched in stone. Yes, sir.
That's why they, Isaiah the 51st chapter, they said, Lord, we have fasted to you and called unto you. He said, I'm tired of all your appointed feasts and your appointed feast days. Their appointed feast days. You know, the Lord winked at them. He let them have their feast days like Purim and, you know, Feast of Dedication, which he didn't command.
That's right.
He let them do it though, didn't he?
That's right.
But how you going to ignore what I tell you to do and do what you want to do and then just say, forget what I say do? Oh, now I'm fixing to punish you. It ain't no thing, you know, I don't have no problem with men doing what they want to do as far as worshiping go. But how you going to do what you want to do and don't do what God say do? That's where the problem come in, don't it?
Whoa.
Go ahead and read. What verse you at?
30.
Uh-huh.
They were none of my counsel. They despise all my reproof.
Go ahead.
Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way.
They going to eat of the fruit of their own way. They brought this on themselves, didn't they?
Come on.
Go ahead.
And be filled with their own devices.
And they going to be filled with their own devices. Go ahead and read.
For the turning away of the simple shall slay them.
Whoa. Your own turning away of the Lord is going to slay you. Go ahead and read.
And the prosperity of fools shall destroy them.
Now, let's go now. Let's go to Proverbs the 16th chapter. Proverbs 16. Proverbs 16. And we're going to pick it up at verse 4. Proverbs 16 and 4. Proverbs 16 and 4. He's just trying to hit a word. Proverbs 16 and 4. Everybody got it? Go ahead and read.
The Lord hath made all things for himself.
Uh-huh.
Yea, even the wicked for the day of evil.
See, he made the wicked for the day of evil. See, I told you, wicked not going to go unpunished. They got a day. Just like the devils, they know, they say, have you come to torment us before our time? The wicked got a day too.
Make it plain.
Go ahead and read.
Verse 5. Everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord.
Uh-huh.
Though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished.
Go ahead.
By mercy and truth iniquity is purged.
Uh-huh.
And by the fear of the Lord men departed from evil.
Ooh, there it is. By the fear of the Lord, men depart from evil. See, if you don't fear the Lord, that's why you got men that are in jail, get out of jail, go back to jail, get out of jail, because they don't fear the Lord. They continue to do their wickedness, don't they? Because they don't fear God. And then that's why you got men doing all sorts of things that they call themselves worshiping God. And they do it according to men and not according to God. Because they don't fear God.
Make it plain, brother.
Because if you knew what God had waiting on you, then you would do what he say. I'm not saying that you're not going to mess up sometime. I'm not saying that.
Come on.
I'm saying you just going to disregard everything God say and do what some man say and just forget what God say.
Whoa.
That's where the problem come in. What verse you at?
7.
Go ahead.
When a man's ways please the Lord,
Uh-huh.
he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him.
Ooh. When the ways of a man please the Lord, he make even his enemies be at peace with him. Leave my servant alone. You know, some guy, you know how they used to say, meet me after school. You understand? Lord say, you ain't messing with him. He'd make even, if the ways of a man please the Lord, he'd make even his enemies be at peace with him. Let's go now. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. Jeremiah 31. And we're going to pick it up at verse 18. Jeremiah 31 and 18. Because he said, turn in my reproof, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Jeremiah 31 and 18. Go ahead and read.
I have surely heard Ephraim
Uh-huh.
bemoaning himself thus. Thou hast chastised me.
He said, thou hast chastised me. See, sometimes the Lord got to put a whooping on you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read. And look what happened to him after he got the whooping on him, though. He didn't continue into his sin. Go ahead and read.
Thou hast chastised me,
Uh-huh.
and I was chastised
Go ahead.
as a bullock unaccustomed to the yoke.
Go ahead.
Turn thou me,
He said, turn thou me. Go ahead.
and I shall be turned.
And I shall be turned. Turn thou me, and I shall be turned. First he put a whooping on you, then he tried to turn you. Make you do right by him. But he's saying right here, turn me and I shall be turned, right?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
For thou art the Lord my God.
Uh-huh.
Surely after that I was turned, I repented.
Whoa. He knew what was going on there. He said, surely after I was turned, I repented. And that's what we have to do.
Yes,
If
sir.
we walk and follow with God, surely and he going to do things to turn us too. He going to put a whooping on you.
Indeed.
And then you know it's from the Lord. Come on. So what you supposed to do? Turn.
That's it.
He ain't doing it because he ain't doing all putting a whooping on you just for his pleasure. He putting a whooping on you so you can turn back to him. So he don't have to ultimately destroy you.
Make it plain, brother. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read. What verse you at?
Back at 19.
Uh-huh.
Surely after that I was turned, I repented, and after that I was instructed.
Then he was instructed first. He got